Thanks for joining us on the Clive Barker Podcast, the only podcast dedicated to the works and worlds of Clive Barker. This is episode 147. Today we have a very special guest with us, Paul T. Taylor. You may have seen him before in movies like Sin City, Super, Soul Men, as well as a lot of stage work in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, like the Dallas Children's Theater. His television credits also include Friday Night Lights, Prison Break, Barney and Friends, and Wonderful World. Now he's playing the Hellpriest, better known to audiences worldwide as Pinhead in Gary Tunnicliffe's upcoming written and directed Hellraiser Judgement. Welcome to the show, and thanks for being with us today, Paul. Hosts today are David Sharp, Jose Leitao, and me, Ryan Danhauser. This is episode 147 of the Clive Barker Podcast. We've got, I'm Ryan, and we've got Jose.
Hello.
And David.
Hello.
And special guest Paul T. Taylor. And Clive Barker fans will recognize the name as the actor playing Pinhead in the upcoming Hellraiser Judgement.
I would certainly hope so.
Welcome to the show. Thanks for being with us today, Paul.
Thank you. Thanks. It's my pleasure. I'm also a long-term Hellraiser fan, so this is cool. I don't know why I didn't get in touch with you guys earlier.
Well, we're here now. That's what matters.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
Expecting a new Hellraiser movie sometime this year.
Yes. If only we knew what date it's going to be.
Yeah, that's gonna be one of the questions that we have to ask. I know you've answered this so many times. Every single interview is like, when is it coming out? Right.
It's what it bugs me is when it's a person who's asked me the same question 10 times already.
Well,
and then it's like, I said I will let you know.
Well,
I know you'll know. I mean, believe me, I will be publishing that.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that trailer.
Me too. I've seen the trailer. Not the trailer, supposedly, but I have seen a trailer. And I was excited by it. It was just so cool, and I squealed. And I made the casting director was in possession of it and put it together for they put it together so that the marketing department, I guess, would have something to use or something. I'm not sure. That was the story anyway. And he was in town, and he said, "Come see this play I'm optioning for a movie, and I will show you this trailer." And he showed it to me, and I said, "Show me again." He showed me again. I think I saw it about 5 times. And then the next time he was in town to put me on tape for something, I said, "Do you have the trailer?" "Yes." "Show it to me." "Show me again." But he wouldn't share it with me. He said, "I cannot share this with you." "Why?" "I promise I won't share it. I just want to see my monster self."
Oh, man.
I know.
Because I look just so larger than life. I just look huge to me. And the thing they did to my voice, I'm a monster. God, so exciting.
So again, it's everybody's itching to know more about Hellraiser Judgment and when it's coming out. And I'm sure this question keeps popping up, like we were talking just earlier. That do you know when the movie's coming out? I have to ask that. It's my job.
Well, the one-word answer is no. I don't. I only know that I've heard rumors of whispers of murmurings, and a very good idea would be for it to come out September 10th of this year, which would be the exact 30-year anniversary to the day of the first Hellraiser film, 30 years. And, I've heard that that's a possibility, but I've not heard that from the Weinsteins. I've not heard that from Dimension Films. And again, everything is a rumor. And, over a year ago, or whenever it was, someone had gone on IMDb, and what was it? Someone put a date on there. It was March something of last year.
Yeah. I remember that.
not realizing how iffy the information is on IMDb. They don't necessarily confirm everything. If somebody, goes on there and says, here's some new information, and they don't necessarily check it. They just go, okay, approved. And so suddenly it's like, it's going to be March 28, 2016. So I'm all over my Facebook fan page, and I'm all over the place just going, it's going to come out on this date. And magazines, a couple magazines quoted me, and I mean, like published paper magazines. And like, oh, cool, I'm in this magazine. They're saying that I said that this is the date, and that if it's not the date, then, take it up with Paul Taylor. Not the date. And, and when I found out that wasn't the date, I just sort of said, okay, I guess, that date went away, and then the year went away, and I went back in and put the year in because it's coming out in 2017. I just don't know when. Because on IMDb, if there's no date on it, the credit goes to the very bottom of your list. Oh, this has got to have at least a year on it.
Sure.
So, but I'm the only person who said it's 2017. Don't worry, but yeah, I do feel at times I am the only one doing publicity for the movie. So, and that's voluntary on my behalf because I got this giant opportunity in my career, and I took it, and now I'm taking the opportunity to, make myself known as much as possible to encourage fans to want to see the movie, even though Doug Bradley's not in it. I'm sure that's a topic, that we can discuss a lot. But so anyway, I don't know when it's coming out, but it would be really great if it was what did I say? September 10, 2017. But that's, don't quote me.
So I'm sure it has to be frustrating for you considering how much excitement is around it and knowing that people flood to your Facebook page and the magazines are quoting you because even though there's challenges associated with having a new Pinhead as we've currently seen, but people are still excited and still want this movie.
Absolutely. And I've been, I've really been, it has been frustrating because I'm kind of tired of waiting and I'm tired of the question when's it coming out because I simply don't know. And there's been so few pictures put out. And of course, I'm forbidden from doing any, because I have a couple pictures that are in my possession that I absolutely cannot, publish. And I know that Gary Tunnicliffe has probably a lot too, but none of us can put anything out because the studio doesn't want it because they have some sort of plan, so the story goes, of when they're going to do what and how they're going to do it. And as I understand it, it's a much better movie than they expected it to be, and so that's why their plans may have changed. But I'm putting this all in not definites, but in possibilities. I mean, this is all stuff I've heard, mostly from Gary, also from the casting director, a couple of the producers, but nothing from the actual, top guys.
And
from the line.
Speaking of the plan for the release of information, was it a big surprise to everybody when Heather Langenkamp told that podcaster at the convention about the movie? She kind of said it nonchalantly, it's like everybody knows, and nobody knew about that.
Yeah. Had nobody informed Heather that, had she not signed an NDA? Was she just too excited to care? I don't know. She had gone to the casting director, Chris Freihofer, who's a wonderful casting director, and with a script, apparently, of a film she'd written and wanted to get made and wanted him to cast. And he didn't recognize her, and then he recognized the name, but I guess he's not a big horror guy. So after she left, he looked her up on IMDb, and he was in the middle of casting Judgment, and he thought of her for the role of the landlady, and he gave her a call, and he offered her the role, and she said yes. So I don't know how much more to it there was than that, but yeah, it was a huge surprise when when she announced that she's in the new Hellraiser film, because it was a big secret. I mean, of course, I knew from reading the sides for the initial audition. I knew from the first line I read. I'm like, this is a Hellraiser movie. What? and then the other email with the, and we want Paul to audition for Pinhead. What? Anyway, it was pretty cool. But yeah, I got to the city. We filmed in Oklahoma City, of all places, because Oklahoma has incredible tax incentives for filmmakers. They get, they get a big refund, and it's really wonderful. So it was, I think, the day I arrived in Oklahoma City was the day that the news broke that there's a new Hellraiser, and it's not Doug, and Doug Bradley's not Pinhead. So suddenly, all this work I'd done to just prepare to do my job as an actor and play Pinhead in this film, suddenly there's this other thing in my head, and I'm like, at night in the hotel rooms, I'm just looking through myself, just looking online, and going, wow, this is kind of blowing up. It's just weird. I shouldn't be worried or thinking about this right now, but suddenly it's like, who's Pinhead? and they had to do what they call damage control. So, in looking back, I think it was the best thing that could have happened for me, because I'm using this opportunity to say, yeah, because who knows, if she had never leaked it, maybe it still wouldn't be known that a Hellraiser was coming out. Maybe they would have preferred that. I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to ask if that had any effect on their plans for marketing, but I guess I have no idea. I mean, with Revelations, they just sort of think it opened in one theater in California, and then they just sort of slid this DVD out into the world and said, "Here's a Hellraiser," and and we all know what became of that film, and what most people think of it, and do you have any problems with people thinking that you are this same actor or I guess actors that played Pinhead in Revelations?
I don't have a problem with it. I mean,
I don't mean like, do you personally? I just mean, have you had that happen where people confuse you with?
I think I have had. I've either read something or maybe someone was at a convention. I don't remember, but I think that I have had somebody actually say, "Oh, it was like Wikipedia or something." It was some wiki page, I think, where it said that Stephen Smith Collins, I think that's his name, was also also Pinhead in this film.
Oh.
But I don't care. That kind of thing's going to happen, and the people who are really into the movies are going to know that it's not true, and those who aren't into the horror but happen to see the movie, maybe they'll like it, and maybe they don't care who the actor is. But yeah. It has happened, and it probably will happen again, because people say, "You're the second Pinhead, right?" No, I'm actually the third one, but I'm Pinhead Paul, so I'm Pinhead 3.
You may not be able to answer this, but just in case, have you seen any post-production? Or I'm just curious, because I know in Hellraiser Revelations they dubbed over the Pinhead. They dubbed over Stephen Smith Collins' voice with a different actor.
Yeah, they did. They didn't do that to me. Thank God.
Okay.
If they had done that, I would have been devastated. Actually,
Sure.
I just would have been devastated.
Did they
They did do the Hellraiser treatment to it. I mean, it's more bassy than my voice, and it's more echoey, like, "Hey, I'm Pinhead."
That's what I was going to ask, if they did any modulation to it.
It seems like it might. It seems a little lower. But they do the same thing with Doug Bradley, and they did the same thing with some of his stuff too. So, but I think from movie to movie, I think maybe they did less and more in some. I'm not sure, or maybe he has a very distinctive voice, Mr. Bradley, and is that great accent. And I don't really sound like him, but I did do a British accent because I just had to. You have to. I don't think fans would accept Pinhead without one.
Right.
Plus, it just sort of, it's Clive Barker's world. It just kind of needs that. It's a British film originally, so I just think keeping that flavor. Anyway, it wasn't necessarily my choice. Probably Gary said, yes, you're doing a British accent, because that's what I did in my audition. But, yeah. So it's my voice.
Sorry. I was just going to say, for the listeners who don't know a lot about Hellraiser Judgment, just a quick reminder of the synopsis. In this new sequel, detectives Sean and David Carter are on the case to find a gruesome serial killer terrorizing the city. Joining forces with Detective Christine Edgerton, they dig deeper into a spiraling maze of horror that may not be of this world. Could the judgment awaiting the killer's victims also be waiting for Sean? So we know that this project originally started as a Gary Tunnicliffe idea for a Hellraiser movie, and then he kind of decided to go for Kickstarter to try to fund this film. And when he did that, his story is that he removed the Hellraiser elements of it because he just wanted to he wanted to see how this would go if he put it on Kickstarter. He wasn't very comfortable with the idea of asking for money on Kickstarter, so eventually he canceled that. But this is probably one of the latest Hellraisers that actually has an original script. And when I say that, I mean it's not an existing script that got rewritten, like, for example, Hellraiser 7 or 8 or 6 or whatever. So in this one, it actually is done by Gary Tunnicliffe, who also wrote Revelations, which is kind of ambivalent for some people. But in this one, he's not only going to he wrote it and directed it. And he created this entire gaggle of like a crew for Pinhead. So it would seem this time Pinhead has an entire crew of assistants that were never seen before. So I was going to ask you, as Pinhead shares the screen with all these characters, did this affect Pinhead's presence in any way? Did you think there were too many people on the set? It's like being surrounded by this army of hellish bureaucrats, right?
Well, it is, except for literally on the set. The only people I interacted with were the horrible humans who, of course, there's always horrible humans in a Hellraiser film. And, of course, Pinhead has to do what he does to them. And this character called the Auditor. Okay. Other than that, and the Chatterer is there as well. Whoops. I let it slip. Chatterer is present.
Where's Mike Regan?
Yeah.
Thank God. Everyone loves Chatterer. But other than that, I don't have anything to do with the other characters who are basically working on the same team I work on. Mm-hmm. But I have my own private quarters, and I don't, I'm not involved with much like the president of a company, although, I mean, that's I'm not playing the president of a company, but you know what I mean. It's like I have my private office. I have my quarters.
Right.
Everyone has their specific function in it.
Yes, yes.
So the auditor and the jury and those, they aren't Cenobites?
I don't think they are.
Okay. That might be just semantics, too.
I'm not. Yeah, exactly. What's a Cenobite? Well, let me explain. Yeah. Cenobite is a fictional blah, blah, blah. But they don't seem to be as transformed with leather and piercings as the very elegant, original Cenobites that we know and love from 1, 2, and 3 especially.
Right.
Yeah, they seem to be, they're not slaves. They have a function, but they're also more along the lines of what's the Leviathan monster's name in number 2 who runs in who chases
the engineer.
The engineer, the engineer, of course.
There you
go. They seem to be more like that because the engineer doesn't appear to me to be a Cenobite. I don't know. I could be wrong, but seems to be more of just a creation of some sort, but not one of the demons who would be sent to Earth. It's very strange. I mean, Gary created another element. He created another world within the Hellraiser world that is somewhere also between Hell and Earth. And that's where these characters sort of dwell. and do their jobs.
I guess the expansion that he tried to make here, it seems like he wanted to show us what happens to the souls, how they're processed after they're taken into hell, right?
It's kind of about that. Yeah. There's a dilemma that I don't want to say too much, of course, but there seems to be a dilemma at the beginning of the movie that's being discussed with Pinhead and the auditor. It's the first conversation in the movie, and I was very excited that the first scene. And blah, blah, blah. I was very excited when I read the script. I'm like, we see what first? Okay, there we go. But there's a discussion going on. I mean, of course, the puzzle box still exists. Of course, that's always going to be a part of Hellraiser. But there seems to be this question of what else can we do? No, this isn't working as well as it used to be, because people's experiences are so extreme anyway these days that we need something else, some new bait of some sort, and that's kind of what the auditor is all about. Well, not all about, because he's just a part of the whole soul gathering process, but. It's interesting because it sets up this whole other mechanism that happens in the movie, while the other story, of course, is going on that has to do with the serial killer, which is, of course, as I always say, the horrible humans, because there's always horrible humans. It's much like Seven, too, which is really cool. Some people have seen the movie, one or two, I don't know how many said this, but somebody said that it seems to be sort of Hellraiser mixed with Seven and The Cell. So that kind of gives you maybe sort of a flavor of it. And I think it's kind of gorgeous. I mean, the unpublished, unofficial trailer I did see that was put together for the people, the promotional team at Dimension, it was glorious. I mean, I see these. There was one thing I saw that reminded me of the Shining, the blood coming out of the elevator. I mean, that's not what's happening, but it was just this slow motion fountain. It was just, oh my God, it was so beautiful. And my tastes, like many people in horror, have grown up over the years, and now when I see a pool of blood or a waterfall of blood or whatever, it's like, that is so gorgeous. And it used to be, oh my God, I'm going to vomit. But now it's like, oh, that's just, it's beautiful cinematography. I think it's going to be really, really cool.
That sounds awesome. You've been actually one of the most active people on social media, rallying the fans towards this movie. And I even saw that video that you did called Back to the Scene of the Crime, where you give a quick walkthrough through some scenes.
I did two of them.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
You know, I did two of those. I did two. I was in Oklahoma City. It's so funny. I was doing a play called Mr. Burns, a post-electric play. It was a very strange thing where I played Mr. Burns at the end, and I'm the villain, and I kill everyone. It's really cool, except I don't. But anyway, I digress. I walked one day on the day off. It was so close to where I was staying at the bed and breakfast. I walked to the scene of the crime where we filmed the movie, and I couldn't get in, but I was outside the warehouse, and yeah, so I did that little thing, and then a little later, I think it was the same day, but I published it later, I went to the alley where some other exciting scenes took place and did another one of those, because this is the coolest opportunity that's ever come to me in my career, in my life. And so I am doing anything, without going too far and getting in trouble with the studio, because of course it's the last thing I want to do. But I'm doing everything I can to just do some publicity. I feel like I'm the only person doing any publicity, and one of the reasons I'm doing that is completely selfish on my part, but I think selfish in a good way. I just want to encourage fans to give this movie a chance, give me a chance as Pinhead. I know that we've been disappointed in some of the past films, and I know that everyone's disappointed that it's not Doug Bradley, but we gotta we got to move on, or we can just never see another Hellraiser film, whatever, or who knows what's going to happen in the future. He could still play Pinhead. But I got this opportunity to get a little famous, and I just sort of took it, and that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to build my fan base so that when the movie does come out and people see that I am good as Pinhead, they are encouraging, and they possibly want to see me play Pinhead again. I mean, I'm just looking at the possibilities here, and there's so much discouraging stuff going on out there with this. But really, when you look at what's going on in the world, this is a movie. This is an entertainment. It's not the end of the world, and yet to a certain group of people, it is extremely important. And I'm one of those people, not only because I'm a big horror fan and I've always loved Hellraiser, but because I'm freaking Pinhead. It's like this is my shot. I feel like it's my shot. And if I'm well received in the role, and if people see that I have the chops, maybe this will lead to some bigger and better roles. Not necessarily Pinhead, but all kinds of things. So that's why I'm doing it. And also, I just want people to go see it. And but bottom line is, I'm not doing it for the studio. I'm doing it for me. And I hope that they appreciate that I'm doing it because, whether they care or not, I mean, they're going to do what they want. It's their movie. Yeah, but
speaking for the fans, we certainly do, because it's the only way we're getting any information about it.
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, if Heather hadn't leaked it, would it still be a secret? Oh, it would be killing me. I'd have an ulcer,
I think that, one thing we've all been kind of noticing that, hey, it's been 5 years now since the last Hellraiser movie. I think that contractually something, had to happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's exactly it. Yes, it was just like Revelations. It is that issue. That's why they did the film. The difference is it didn't sneak up on them. They knew exactly when it was going to happen, and they, because there have been all kinds of plans for the last few years about doing a complete reboot with Clive Barker and Doug Bradley involved. It hasn't happened. I don't know why it hasn't happened, because it's not my world, but it hasn't happened, so they had to do this. The difference is, yes, Tunnicliffe wrote both scripts, but this time he directed this one. It's a labor of love. It wasn't rushed. He had lots of time to prepare. I had lots of time to prepare. The budget was bigger, and it's going to be better than Revelations. I mean, I say that. What if I'm wrong? God forbid. But, I'm not saying I hated Revelations, but, I know a lot of people, it was not their favorite Hellraiser, so that's what I'm going to say.
That's an understatement.
We know you've seen the trailer. Have you seen the actual finished product?
What, of Judgment?
Of Judgment, yeah.
No, I have not.
Have you seen the finished film? Okay.
I haven't seen it. No, I haven't. I know that a handful of people have. Even my I have a convention agent now, Sean Clark, who's he's a big deal with the convention, with the sci-fi and horror convention world. He's a huge deal. He saw a rough cut, apparently, before he ever signed me, and I guess it was after he saw that he already had my information. He called me. I'm like, well, that's a good sign.
Yeah, that's a very good sign.
Yeah, but I haven't seen it. I have not seen it. I've only seen that. I went in for, I always get ADR wrong. I call it additional dialogue recording. I know that's not what it stands for, but that's what I call it because it's easier to understand. But I went in to some looping. That's what I went in to do, to loop. And so I did get to see my big end of the movie entrance and see how I move and see how I sound. And that was extremely exciting. I just wanted them to play it for me all day. And after 20 minutes, they're like, okay, we're good. Oh, no, don't.
I've been reading some interviews with you where you talk about what you think about the character of Pinhead, and I think you're pretty much nailing it the way you talk about him. For example, in one interview you said that Pinhead is impenetrable. You cannot defeat him. He has the powers of God given to him. He has these powers that give him the strength so that it doesn't have to try to destroy you. The stillness that comes from that confidence is really the basis of Pinhead for me. And in this last line, I think it really told me that you nailed the character, I guess. So I'm really looking forward to this one.
Well, thanks. I must credit Tunnicliffe for that as well, because Gary showed me. First of all, his direction on set was just throw it away, throw it away before every take almost. Just said, just murmured to me, just throw it away, because I knew I had all the power looking at myself. I mean, obviously, you look like that. It's kind of like when you're a sight gag. If you're doing a comedy, I did a musical comedy called Forever Plaid that ran for 3.5 years at the theater I was doing it, and we're all sight gags. We're these nerds dressed in these white dinner jackets, and then we take those up. We have pink shirts on and these bow ties, and then at the end we get these plaid coats from heaven, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
We're doing this concert. Anyway, we're nerds and we're sight gags. And the director, who was fantastic, taught me this years ago. He said, "You're already a sight gag. We're already looking at you. Don't do anything." And by "do" could be in quotation marks. It's like, don't act anything. Just do it. Just do your action. Just say it. Because if you just say it nonchalantly, we know you mean it. Whereas if you threaten somebody all, it's not nearly as scary as if you just say it because you mean it. And that's basically where Pinhead's coming from.
Completely.
He has all the power. He's the freakiest looking. The audience knows that he can make hooks on chains fly out of nowhere just by looking up.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So when I went out to,
I was just going to say, so you don't have to go out of your way to say, "Hey, everybody, look at me, I'm Pinhead," because they're already looking.
Exactly.
At you. Yeah.
You don't have to bug your eyes out. The last film was unfortunate in its lack of that sort of discipline. I think. I think that Pinhead would have been better served if the actor would have been toned down somewhat by himself or by the director or whoever. I wasn't there. I don't know. But there seemed to be some bugging of eyes and stuff and acting scary. It's like, you don't act scary. You're already terrifying. You don't have to do anything. But when I was in LA getting my head cast done so I could do the makeup, Gary showed me this clip from Star Wars, and it was Peter Cushing, and it's when he's on the Death Star with Princess Leia, and he's saying, "Okay, which one of these planets do you want me to blow up? Are you going to give me this information?" Blah blah blah. Anyway, I think she gives him the information. I don't remember that part correctly. And he destroys the planet anyway. And she goes, "No." And he just very nonchalantly says, "You're far too trusting." As he walks away. And it was that. You're far too trusting. And Gary goes, "There's your Pinhead." I'm like,
"Oh yeah."
Okay. Huh. Completely agree.
And then that made it easy. It made it easy. I'm like, I'm Peter Cushing. I am the Emperor. There is no defeating me, Plus, just that whole nonchalant, so cold, and that no sense of humor. There have been other Pinhead scripts, obviously number 3, where Pinhead just sort of, was allowed to just lose his mind and go crazy and have fun and laugh. None of that happens in Judgment. It's much more somber. It's a different sort of period in his existence. I think more time has gone by. He's perhaps more, he's older, and he's a little more jaded, perhaps, over it. Not that he doesn't enjoy his work, but it's just sort of maybe some of the glamour has worn off for him. I'm not sure.
Well, once Gary Tunnicliffe, I don't know if you had a chance to see this, maybe he's shown it to you. He once made a short film called No More Souls, where Gary himself donned the makeup of Pinhead to show that after the apocalypse, when there's no more souls to harvest, and it's Pinhead sitting in his throne, really bored, and he doesn't know what to do anymore because there's no more. Every human soul has been harvested, everybody has been tortured, and ultimately they turn their knives on each other, the Cenobites. So that's what happens to Pinhead in that really quirky short film.
Yeah. That's not the plot of Judgment, by the way. But,
right.
Yeah, that is a cool film.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. I mean, that's Gary under that makeup playing Pinhead. And I just think it's so cool. I mean, he's such a genius with makeup. He can make anybody look fantastic. I saw Pet recently. He did the makeup for Pet. And, I mean, just a simple broken nose. I was like, look at that. That girl has a broken nose. And she doesn't have a broken nose, but I think he's remarkable. But, yeah.
Well, he's a real Renaissance man. I mean, he now writes, directs, and does special effects. And you were talking about how to emote through the makeup. And I want to ask you about the makeup. Did Gary do your makeup for this movie? How was that experience of sitting in the makeup chair for you?
Yeah, it was great. He designed it. He sculpted it. Of course, I arrive at the set, and there it is, three sets, one for each day. I only shot 3 days, but I shot 3 full days. But the guy who applied the makeup was Mike Miasmer, who is a longtime friend of Gary's and also, a real pro who does makeup in L.A. and all over the place already. And, he glued me in and did all the airbrushing and things. And then Gary would come in from directing, and he'd just give me a little look and let's do a little here, and then do a little touching up. And, I have an idea here, and do a little, finishing touches, and then put it. I think Gary always put the contacts in for me too, because he was really good at that. Those full black square contact lenses are hard to get in, but he's done it enough, so he knows what he's doing. So
how long did it take to get all that makeup on?
Well, I just want to say one more thing. Also, Mike Reagan. Mike Reagan was also on that team, and he also was very responsible for sculpting Pinhead and the other Cenobites. But it's funny that everybody who comes to apply the makeup apparently goes for a world record in applying the Pinhead makeup as quickly as they can to try to beat the record. And Mike would come in, and he'd set the timer, and he'd just start gluing. And then we needed a cigarette break. He'd hit the timer and leave, and then come back and set the timer again. And he did beat the record, and he even got the makeup didn't even suffer from it. I was just like, just make sure I'm horizontal, okay? Just make sure my pins are straight, and I don't look like I've had a stroke. But so he did it, and he beat the record. And I think all told, it was just under 2 hours. But to glue it on, I think it was about an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
But then they had to do the lower lip is a separate piece from everything else, and then there's the airbrushing, of course, and the contacts. So, but all told, just under 2 hours to get everything done. So it was, but I loved sitting in that chair because I knew what was happening to me. I couldn't possibly be bothered by it. And Doug Jones is a hero to me. I mean, I would love to have Doug Jones's career. I just think to be that guy who is the guy who everyone knows will sit for hours to get ready for a shot in a film. And then the results, Pan's Labyrinth, and just all of them. Just
Hellboy, and he gets full body suits. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he
does
it. And he has the right kind of personality that can do that. I seriously think that I could also do that. I don't get claustrophobic with things like that. I've always loved, like when I was a kid, I loved being grotesque, unrecognizable, and concealed within pantyhose or whatever it happened to be, pantyhose on my head or whatever it was. I liked, maybe only one, I could only see out of one eye, but I know that I looked creepy, and I just loved it. I grew up that way.
Absolutely.
Going back to the original script, you had said that reading it, you could tell that it was a Hellraiser movie. Did it have some other title or some kind of working title to try to keep it from being known right away that it was a Hellraiser movie?
No, it was just called Judgment. And actually,
okay.
You read the synopsis. You read the plot synopsis. That was also in the email that contained the site for the audition. And I read that synopsis, and it even occurred to me. The spiraling maze of, what was it, spiraling maze of hell or spiraling maze of something. It kind of, for a second, this could be But it was when the other role I auditioned for was the auditor, and that's the one that I read. That side, it came out in the group email. Like my agent will send out emails to every actor who the casting director wants to see with the sides for each one of the characters in one email. So I could read all those sides, and I could see who else was called. And I was only on there for the auditor. And I opened his side, and I read it. And the first line I read was something about it gave it away to me. I read the first line, and I said, this is a Hellraiser film. And then it was shortly after that I received a private email about auditioning for Pinhead. But, the auditor's line was something about such sights to show.
Oh, wow.
So maybe it wasn't exactly those words, but it was so clear to me. Like, well, duh, of course.
Yeah. I was
giving the auditor.
I was going to bring that up because I was looking at your Wikipedia page when I was researching for this, and it said you were going to play the auditor in this movie. But then when I went to IMDb, it said that Mike Regan, who usually plays the chatter, plays the auditor. So
that's so wrong. It's all wrong.
Right. Yeah. It's a big mess there.
I think it's confusing on purpose because the auditor's identity is unknown. And Gary wants to keep it that way because it's kind of a surprise for horror fans.
Sure.
So it's an uncredited role. Maybe I'm not supposed to say that. Maybe that was part of the secret. Yeah, Mike Reagan's playing the auditor. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I definitely have seen. I definitely saw a bunch of question marks in front of the auditor in certain lists of cast lists, so I guess they're keeping it secret.
I thought I had even read that Gary Tunnicliffe had played the auditor at one point.
I think that he did not, but that was somebody's. I think it was a Russian guy.
Yes.
Somebody sent me. Dmitry. That's his name. We're friends on Facebook. He said, I think Gary Tunnicliffe played this part.
Is he in the crew or something? He had a ton of
credits.
Photos. Yeah.
Who, Dmitry?
Yeah.
I don't know how he gets those photos.
Oh,
I seriously don't. But he's in Russia, so there. Maybe Trump's helping him. I don't know. Trump might be a big Hellraiser fan. Can you imagine Trump as Pinhead? Wow. Where's the limousine? Anyway, I digress so much.
And for the other Hellraiser fans here, I also want to add that I believe that the Stitch twins are back in this film as well.
I think they are. Yeah, I think they are. Okay. I remember reading that in the script. So, yeah, now I remember.
There you go. It's been announced, so I was just wondering about that. So we do have Chatter and the Stitch twins along with Pinhead in this movie. So that kind of ties it in together with some of the other sequels, I guess.
So with that,
if only we had female Cenobite.
Oh yeah,
love her. So awesome.
With the script, there in a podcast interview that Gary Tunnicliffe did. It was 60 minutes with Gary Tunnicliffe, but it was like 3 hours long.
Yeah. It's fun. It's so funny.
He had said
he goes off.
He He had said that in his original script there was stuff that the studio made him take out, and people are going to blame me. I just know it, and stuff like that. Was there anything that you read in the original? I don't. You may not be able to say anything about this, but was there anything in the original script that you read that you thought, man, I wish we could have had that in the movie?
I don't know, because I don't know what the finished product has in it. I mean, the original script is pretty darn over the top, nasty. What's happening here?
I think he kind of made it sound like cool. they cut stuff out of the script early.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Well, the script.
No, I mean, I get there, and I just get my sides and my scenes. Maybe some of them have been changed a bit, but I wasn't. There was one thing I got cut out of, but it was a dream sequence, and it was that was okay. That was okay with me. It was like, let's somebody else. Something else is happening here instead. But other than that, all I know is my stuff, as was all filmed from the original script I read. All of those scenes were still intact, but I don't know about anything else. I have no idea. I'm so not behind the scenes with that.
Yeah. Well, people should have some confidence in Gary Tunnicliffe. Yeah. I mean, he's been involved with the Hellraiser franchise since like late 1991, ever since Hellraiser 3 and 4.
Yeah. And he's a huge fan, and you know, he and Clive Barker are I don't know how close they are, but I know that they have had a really good relationship in the past. I hope they still do. And yeah, he's always been a huge fan of Clive Barker's work. And I think that's one of the things about Hellraiser Judgement is that he really, as much as all of the most hardcore fans really wants this to return to the roots, to the original flavor, to the original story type from the original movie, you know. And that means less Cenobites, more story. That's just the way it is. The way he put it to me about Pinhead especially is like, you know, and the Cenobites, I guess not Pinhead specifically, but the Cenobites in general, it's like the Cenobites, a really good Hellraiser film is like a really well-made cake. It just tastes delicious and doesn't need frosting, but the Cenobites are the frosting on the top of the cake. And what happens when you eat too much frosting? You get really sick. So yeah, the Cenobites are just they're the flavor. They're that special sauce on top, you know.
I think.
But in this particular film, there is sort of there's an arc. Pinhead has an arc. He has a storyline, which I'm not going to go into at all. But he does go through some things, and I'm like, yeah, cool, very cool.
And he tries to expand it as well.
In the original Hellraiser, they could have replaced the Cenobites with police, and it still would have worked as a story. It wouldn't have been as interesting, but...
Yeah, it could have been a sci-fi.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It could have been some... Yeah, absolutely.
It seems in one of your latest projects...
Crazy clowns from outer space.
Right.
It seems in one of your latest projects that was just completed last month that you're still holding the knife. I mean, you play an autopsy doctor in Revenge in Kind. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I saw a screening of it very recently, and it's such a cameo. It's nothing more than a cameo, really. It's not. You know, I hesitate to. I mean, I know I'm in it because I've seen it, and but they did a lot of editing. You know, all I can really say is I'm there to give information in this story of the film. But it's a detective story. It's not about gore. I don't think there's any gore in it at all. It's much more of a detective story having to do with the killer. The killer in it is very good. The guy Tom Hurd plays the guy. He's really good too. But it was a local film. My scene anyway. We shot in a hospital in Dallas. So that was cool.
So Dallas-Fort Worth area. Dallas-Fort Worth area seems to be the area where you've done the most theater work, right? I mean, you've recently played also Which is funny. I was reading an interview where you were talking about Pinhead, and at the same time, the picture in this article was you dressed as the old green grasshopper at the Dallas Children's Theater last May for James and the Giant Peach. And I guess that's such a versatile display for you. I mean, you've just played Pinhead, and now you're playing the old green grasshopper.
I was kind of the grasshopper, actually. I started out in children's theater when I was in my I started out as a kid doing theater, but then as a professional, my first gigs were children's theater, and I like returning to it. And also, I am a working actor who gets my health insurance through doing theater. Absolutely. And that's the real life story. That's the bottom line. Is if I don't have 20 weeks of stage work a year that is qualified, it's a theater that's qualified under my union, Actors Equity Association, to pay into my health insurance, the bank, whatever, then I don't qualify for insurance and I don't have health insurance. So that's not why I took that job, though. I have worked at Dallas Children's Theater for 20 years off and on, and I love working there. And it was James the Giant Peach. It was so much fun. But I like to think that, I mean, the old green grasshopper has absolutely no mean bone in his body. Right. And he's a fantasy character. And it was so much fun, totally goofy, and I just went there. I basically was playing Terry Thomas. That was my own take on it. You know, the old British actor with the gap tooth who was just the British cad in so many movies, like It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, and all these different movies that took place in the 50s and the 60s until he died tragically of Parkinson's, a pauper in poverty. It was really a sad story. But anyway, I basically was just having the goofball time of my life, and the director, who's an old friend of mine, didn't put any restraints on me, and he just would laugh and shake his head and go, okay, that's what you're going to do. So yeah, it's kind of fun to know that I have that much, and you know, I commit too. If I commit to something and I know it's silly, and a lot of actors could treat it as stupid or condescend to it or play down to the kids or whatever, I refuse to do that. I mean, theater, movies, everything I do, I commit fully because it's what I do for a living. It's what I love more than anything else. There's so many other things in my life that I have trouble committing to because I don't really care about them, and I think that's true for, you know, most artists probably. It's like, all I want to do is this. So, sure, I've done scripts I don't like, and I'm sure I will do more because, you know, you got to make a living. But I'd still much rather be doing a bad play than working in an office any day.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. So getting
the arts are elevating your audience and elevates the artist. I mean, it's a completely different field.
Absolutely, and if you can turn these kids who've never seen a play before into theater lovers, that could lead to them being actors, or it could lead to them being directors, or it could lead to them being movie actors or whatever. It's like, let's just, you know, let's do that. That's an investment in our future, in the arts.
Absolutely.
And you know.
So you said
I loved it.
So now you said you had a convention agent. So I guess your next convention is probably going to be on July 15, Insane Fest. Is that correct?
Insane Fest, yeah. It's funny though because it's not. This one is a one night thing. I don't know if you'd even call it a convention. And my agent didn't have anything to do with it. This was just a guy who had wanted me for another convention later in the year, and it fell through because of another company also having a convention in the same city and blah, blah, blah. So this guy calls me and says, okay, I have this thing called Insane Fest, and it takes place in an ice house, and it's heavy metal bands, and I want you to come be the guest for one night. And so he's going to fly me down to San Antonio, and I'm going to, you know, be the guest at Insane Fest, and then the next day I'll fly back home. And so that's just a little thing, but it still should be fun, and I can hang out with insane people and be a little crazy myself. But I've had some wonderful convention experiences so far, and it's a new world to me, obviously, because it wasn't until this movie, till this happened that I got my first convention, of course. And
oh boy,
I love it because it's just, it's freaks and geeks, and it's kind of like how I felt when I discovered the world of theater. It's like, well, this is where I belong, and this is where I can be who I am, and this is where I can act as crazy or whatever as I want, and nobody cares. In fact, they encourage it, as long as no one gets hurt. But
wonderful.
So yeah, all these people coming up to the table, and it's just like, man, you people are just so cool. So yeah, I'm looking forward to more of that. I know that's Doug Bradley's bread and butter. I mean, that's what he does for a living.
Sure.
And,
yeah, absolutely.
More power to him. He makes, I don't know how much he makes. I think he makes a lot of money.
After Hellraiser Judgment comes out, I'm sure you'll have no problem getting into the convention circuit, and you're going to meet some really, really weird people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So far, they've been pretty local. They've been local except for I went up to Kansas a couple weeks ago, Hutchinson, Kansas, to my hometown of Hutchinson, Kansas, where there's this convention called Smallville Comic-Con, and I had the best time. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how much fun I had, especially compared to, I went to, a few months ago, I was in New Jersey at Chiller. I had more fun at Smallville, and I think it's because it was people just having fun. It wasn't overpriced. It wasn't overblown. We didn't have high-ticket guests. It was just, we can all afford to do what we want here, and there was music and dancing, and kids were there, and it was so much fun. I think, some of the conventions, I haven't experienced this yet, but, the really high-dollar guests, it gets really corporate, and, I don't know what's happening with that world, but I'm looking forward to exploring it, and my agent represents I think all the Walking Dead people who are represented, and
oh, wonderful.
Hang out with Norman Reedus. Okay, I'll hang out with Norman.
That's cool. Just wait until you start meeting fans asking you how many pins are on Pinhead's makeup, and why did they change the chest plate? Yeah. Oh, you do?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Good answer.
And actually, Gary's idea, because of course he designed that, the new costume. His idea was that, what is the name of that shape? You could just call it a diamond.
The diamond?
Call it a diamond. Yeah. I first saw it, and he just pointed at it, and he says to me, the Order of the Gash. Get it? The Order of the Gash. Yes, the Order of the Gash. Okay, I get it. And then he goes, Leviathan, because it's, it's kind of an elongated triangle. And I'm like, okay, cool. Looks painful. So, yeah, I don't know. I know a lot of people might dig it and a lot of people might not, but whatever. I'm just wearing it. So.
Sure. I mean, it's not new. I mean, there's been several different changes to costumes to Cenobites throughout the entire series, and even Clive Barker at one point he wanted to turn Pinhead into like a white robed character, like a pope or something. But of course, the black leather is much cooler than that, so they never really went for that. But there were always plans to change it and all that, so it's not surprising.
There was something that Gary added that I really loved was the chainmail apron. I'm wearing a chainmail apron. And really cool. I mean, it just had this, I'd walk and I'd kick it, and it would just just one weapon, one super gnarly, very dangerous weapon, instead of all those different ones hanging.
Right.
My nipples healed up nicely because they were covered by leather, and those nipple gashing stuff going on. As I'm staring at I'm just staring at my Hellraiser action figures. So yeah, what else is different? Anyway, none of the 70s or 80s shoulder pads. I mean, I don't know. I just don't have those round shoulders in this, but I actually sort of have. I think it's going to be very cool when we actually see it in the movie, but but from the pictures, you really can't tell anything yet. So I don't know how it's actually going to look on screen. I'm real excited to see that.
When that movie magic kicks in, everything's going to look great, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure. It's going to be so cool. And I know it was shot well, so I just I don't know much more, though, about that.
Sounds great. Looking forward to that, hopefully September or whenever it happens, when it's ready, right?
Yeah, whenever it happens.
Yeah. And what's next in line for Paul Taylor?
What is next in line for Paul Taylor? Well, let's see. I have some more conventions coming up. As far as work, though, as far as my work in the theater, the next theater I have is not. It's a Christmas show. Okay. There are a couple films that I am currently in talks with a director he's written 2 movies, and one in which I will be playing the super baddie demon, a role that would probably be played by Christopher Walken if it was a big budget film, that kind of demon character, which I was very excited to read about. But another one that he's going to have the funding for much sooner is a film. It's untitled. He wrote a title for it, but it's going to change probably, so I'm not going to say what that is. But it is sort of a Terry Gilliam-esque story, Scaramouche, but it's contemporary and kind of a Christoph Waltz type character, I would say. For me, it's a guy in a limo, or perhaps it's a Lincoln Continental, I'm not sure, but chauffeured around, and he owns, he's sort of the underlord of the gritty city, and of course, there's drug dealings going on, and but he's very sophisticated and loves the arts, but he's a stone cold killer, and it's going to be a lot of fun. He's a very sophisticated bad guy, so that's probably he's aiming to start shooting in September. So right now the summer is not summer's not very full. So I'm working on my script that will someday be a screenplay, and I'll have the power to go, someone make this movie, and someone will make the movie, and everyone will go, wow, Paul's brain, he is really twisted, because I have a story to tell, but it's just so weird that I can't even explain. It involves a man in a bunny suit. That is all I'm going to say. But, yeah.
Well, that sounds great. I hope that we'll get to see that in the future.
Yeah, I do too. Paul Taylor's bunny suit.
Paul Taylor meets the puka.
So this is going to be super controversial, but your name was Paul T. Taylor on Facebook for a while, and now it's just Paul Taylor without the T.
Well, no, see, I have 2 Facebook pages.
Oh, okay.
My fan page is Paul T. Taylor. And my credit as an actor is Paul T. Taylor. I had to make that choice. Actually, it was when I got Hellraiser Judgement, that I made the choice, because when I first joined the union, actually I've been equity for years and years, and I was Paul Taylor, then I was Thomas Taylor, and then I just experimented with that. But when I moved to New York and discovered that in SAG there was already an actor named Paul Taylor, who was like a regular on General Hospital, I decided to change my name, and so. But it wasn't until Hellraiser Judgement that I officially changed it, both with equity and to make it official with SAG, that I am Paul T. Taylor. So my regular Facebook page is Paul Taylor, but you can go to my fans page and it's Paul T. Taylor.
That makes sense. Yeah, I was just kidding about controversial, but.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. You were being ironic, and I've had coffee and dinner, so I'm just kind of like, not catching everything.
With the convention circuit, coming up and embracing the Pinhead character, can we expect to see more of you in genre films? Because I know that usually once the fans start to, get involved, then they want to, see you in other horror films.
I think absolutely yes. I did another film earlier this year called what is it called? Sick for Toys, which it's an LA film, but again, it's shot in Texas. So, but that's a cool little role. I'm playing a drunken pedophile uncle. How fun! But, definitely a bad guy. Yes, I kind of seek it out. I recently put myself on tape for a film. I hope I get it. I mean, I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but it was ironically playing the role of an actor who had played a character called the Arborist in a series in 6 horror films called Arbor Day. And he was, of course, the screen villain on all of these. And it's basically ruined his career because he was a serious actor and he doesn't get to do theater and he doesn't get to do anything else besides Arbor Day sequels. And so he's extremely bitter. And but it's kind of a comedy. It's a horror comedy, I believe. Mm-hmm. Oh, I read the sides and I said, "Oh my God, I want to play this. I want to play this so bad." I don't mean to make fun of Doug Bradley, but it would be ironic. I just think the irony there, the casting director or someone can see that and go, "Well, right. We need to stunt cast Paul Taylor in this role." Paul T. Taylor, I mean. Anyway, so I seek it out. I mean, the guys like Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi, all those guys who did so many horror movies, Vincent Price, it's like how wonderful to always get to play monsters and scare people. It's what I love more than anything. I've been a Halloween freak since I was a kid. And so, yeah, if I'm asked to do more genre films, I will certainly do that. I'll do anything, but that's what I would prefer to do, actually. Yeah.
Okay, well, we have the one question from Rob Ridenauer, who has been a host on a lot of our podcast episodes, but he couldn't make it this time.
Hey, Paul, this is Rob Ridenauer. It's good to have you on the podcast. I was just curious. I have a couple questions. One is the visual style for the film. The look... There's seems to be a contrast between the two factions of hell here with the new Cenobites that are being introduced, like the Butcher and all that. Kind of their hell is kind of very yellowish and sodium lighting, kind of, And the hell usually we, have with Pinhead, it's very cold and blue. And I was just wondering if those two styles mix well together. Or will we see you mix it, mingle in with these other Cenobites? My next question is just simply how was it like? Were you able to work with Heather Langenkamp? All right, thank you. Bye.
Okay.
I'm going to answer the second question first because that's the easiest one. And no, I have not worked with Heather Langenkamp. I met her at a convention and said, "Hey, I'm Pinhead," and she said, "Hey, welcome to your new life." But no, I didn't get to actually work with her in the film. She had a line a mile long to get her autograph. It was great. Sure. But as far as the question about the hues and the lighting and the coloring of the scenes, I know that for a large part of the film, it is the cold, sort of light, pale blue lighting, which I just love so much. I like Pinhead in blue the most, actually. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy to say that I think that's my basic tone in the movie. But I've also seen a picture. A picture was sent to me from. 2 pictures were sent to me that have not been published. One, I'm a little blue, and one, I'm a little of the other tobacco stained, whatever you want to call it, yellowish, amber. And this was the same scene. So I think that they are sort of mixed. I'm just not sure. It's a really good question, but technically I don't really know the answer since I haven't seen it, and I didn't actually pay that much attention to the lighting. I only know from what I've seen later that there is definitely a mix.
I think he's going he's going according to the pictures that have been put out, and I think sometimes these pictures have filters and stuff that don't necessarily reflect the footage that's been done for the movies. So I guess that's why
there's that one. There's a picture of me. It's sort of a high school portrait of me and the auditor together.
Mm-hmm.
That's just looking at the camera.
Yeah.
That's not from the movie. That was just a picture that was that's a shot that was taken after I wrapped. It's what the blood spray is on my face. The blood spatter. So it's not lit right.
Right.
The wound doesn't look right, I don't think, and it's too pale. The background is like this baby blue.
Of course.
If people take that picture and do things to it, they can make it look, kind of nice in the nasty Hellraiser way. But that's not an example at all of what the movie looks like. The only picture that has been put out there that is, well, I guess the individual pictures of like the new characters, whose names are of course escaping me, that you guys mentioned before, the preparation guys, here's the guy who does this, here's the girl, the jury, the et cetera.
The assessor,
the butcher. Yeah.
Right.
That kind of lighting, I think that's the world that exists, that's where the workers are, as opposed to where Pinhead is. I really think that his realm is that icy blue place where you can see your breath, and with the chains and the hooks and the Pillar of Souls and all that kind of thing. Not that there's a Pillar of Souls that I know of. Anyway.
Well, it seems like they're on the right track then. I really hope that we'll get some more news about Judgment soon, and please let us know when there's any news about Judgment. Slap it all over your Facebook.
Yeah.
You bet I will. You bet I will.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Paul.
Yeah,
it was really a pleasure to get to talk to you. I'm geeking out right now. Yeah.
Cool. Just Paul. I'm just Paul.
All right. And this podcast, having no beginning, will have no end. You can find the show notes for this episode as well as lots of news and features at www.clivebarkercast.com. Leave comments there or get them directly into the podcast by clicking the Send Voicemail tab on the right. Please follow us on Twitter @BarkerCast or @OccupyMidian. Like us on Facebook and join the Occupy Midian Facebook group. You can listen on the site or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, TuneIn, Pocket Cast, Google Play, and Double Twist. Look for our apps in the iTunes Store or Google Play Store. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Please take a couple of minutes to leave us a review on iTunes. It means the world to us and helps us spread the word about Clive Barker. The Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial fan site and podcast that is not affiliated with or under contract by Clive Barker or Seraphim Films. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans.
Thanks for listening.